I am 68 years old, and I had not seen my grandson in almost 3 years when the school counselor slid a folded piece of paper across her desk and said, "He wrote this for class, and then he asked me to make sure it got to you." The first line of the essay read, "The person I miss but don't see is my grandfather, and I think he left because I did something wrong." Her name was Mrs. Okafor. She ran the counseling office at Eli's school, a brick building 40 minutes off the interstate, closer to my daughter's house than to mine. I live in the small town where I was born, 2 hours north by the River Road, in the same house my wife raised our daughter in. Maya is 38 now. Eli turned 10 in March. For nearly 3 years I have driven past that exit and kept going because that is what Maya asked me to do. I used to run a tool and die shop out of a rented bay behind the hardware store. I retired the spring after my wife Carol died, and I think that is where the trouble started. Grief makes a person careless with the people still standing. At a family dinner about 6 weeks after the funeral, Maya suggested I sell the house and move closer to them. I told her, sharper than I meant, that she wanted to manage my life the way she managed everything else, and that maybe Carol had been the only one who could stand living in it. She went quiet. She packed Eli into the car. A week later, she texted that she and Eli needed space and that Eli was too young to be caught in the middle of something he didn't understand. I respected that. I sent birthday cards Eli never answered, and I told myself the silence was the price of not making it worse. So when Mrs. Okafor called me at the number still listed in Eli's emergency contact history, I assumed something had gone wrong at school. I dressed in the good shirt I wear to nothing in particular and drove down. She offered me water. She said Eli had been withdrawn for a few weeks, and during a writing assignment about someone important, he had produced this. She had not opened it, she said, until he asked her to. Then she read it and decided a grandfather should hear it. The essay was printed in a child's careful handwriting with a title in all capitals. "The person I miss but don't see." I read it sitting in a too small chair. "The person I miss but don't see is my grandfather. He used to let me help him in his shop and gave me a wooden car he made. My mom says he needed space and that is why we don't visit. But I asked about him a lot and she said he was busy. I think maybe he did not want to see me because I was loud that one time. I would be happy to see him even for 1 hour. I remember his hands were rough and he smelled like sawdust. My hands were rough. I had not been busy. I had been sitting in that house, afraid that showing up would prove Maya right about me. Mrs. Okafor watched me fold the paper. "He talks about you," she said, "not constantly, but more than a boy who's been told his grandfather chose to leave would. I'm not a judge of family business. I just thought you should know what he wrote." I drove home with the essay in my coat pocket and did not call Maya. I wanted to. I drafted a text, then deleted it, then drafted a longer one accusing her of lying to a child and deleted that too. The line I could not get past was the one about space. She had told him I needed space. She had not told him I was the one being kept away. That was not the same as cruelty. It was the kind of half-truth a hurt person tells to make a hard thing simpler, and it had lived in her son for 3 years. For 2 days I carried the essay and weighed whether contacting Eli would be love or just another adult imposing his needs on a child who had no say in any of it. My instinct, the old one, was to demand. To call Maya and say you lied and bring the paper like evidence. I have done that kind of thing before. It is how I lost them. Instead, I wrote Maya a letter, by hand, the way Carol used to. I told her I had been given something Eli wrote, that I was not angry, and that I would not come near him without her agreement. I said I understood she had been protecting herself, and that I had given her reason to. I asked only whether she would sit with me and a neutral person and talk about what Eli should know. I gave her the name of no one, made no threat, set no deadline. She did not answer for 9 days. Then she called, at an hour I could tell she had chosen so I would not hear Eli in the background. Her voice was tired, not cold. "You really didn't know?" he asked, she said. I said I hadn't. She was quiet a long time. "I told him you needed space because I was angry," she said. "Because every time I thought about you, I remembered that dinner, and I was scared that if we opened the door, the same thing would happen and he'd be the one who heard it. I thought distance was protection. I didn't know he'd decide it was his fault. I let that sit. I'm not asking to move in, I said. I'm asking to correct the story before it sets. We met at a community mediator's office 3 towns over, a woman Maya found through her own therapist. The mediator was plain and unhurried. Maya said more than I expected. She said she had been afraid I would try to take Eli from her the way my own father had once tried to take me, and that the fear had outrun the facts. I said I could see that, and that I was sorry for the dinner, and that I would rather have a small, true place in Eli's life than a large, false one in my own head. The arrangement we reached was small, 1 visit a month, at a library or park near Maya's home, with her nearby. No promises about the future, no rewriting of the past. The first visit was 2 Saturdays later. Eli was taller than I remembered and wary in a way children are not with strangers and are with grandparents they have been told to miss from a distance. We sat at a picnic table. Maya stood by the playground, close enough to watch, far enough to let us be. I did not mention the essay. I asked him about school, and he asked me, finally, "Did you really need space?" I said, "I needed space from some things, but never from you." That part was mixed up. He considered this the way 10-year-olds consider adult confessions, with more fairness than most adults. Then he asked if I still had the wooden car he remembered. I said I did, and that I would bring it next time. We did not hug. He waved when Maya called him, and he looked back once. On the drive home, I kept the essay on the seat beside me, and I understood that trust in our family had never been something anyone broke in one fight and fixed in one visit. It was something we would have to build, slowly, in front of a boy who deserved the truth told gently. Every life has a turning point. Mine was not the day my daughter left, or the day I read that essay, but the day I chose to answer a lie with a letter instead of a demand. The question I leave with you is this. When a child has been told the wrong story about someone who loves him, does love give that person the right to push past a boundary, or is the right thing only what the boundary's keeper will allow?